The old apartment complex had been a firetrap waiting for a spark. When that spark finally came, a frayed wire in a basement utility room, ancient insulation catching like kindling, it took less than 8 minutes for flames to devour the first 3 floors. Black smoke billowed into the autumn night sky, visible for miles across the city of Ashenholt, painting the moon a sickly orange. King Dorian Ashcroft stood on the balcony of the Obsidian Tower, watching the distant blaze with detached interest. At this distance, it looked almost beautiful, a flower of destruction blooming against the darkness. "Your Majesty!" His advisor, Lady Seraphine, appeared at his side with silent grace. "The fire brigade has been dispatched. Mortal authorities are handling the evacuation." "Good." Dorian's voice was measured, controlled. After 400 years, everything was controlled. He turned from the balcony, ready to return to the tedious council documents awaiting his signature. Another night, another crisis in the mortal quarter that didn't concern him. The treaty between vampires and humans had been clear for 2 decades. Vampires governed the night, humans the day. Each species kept to their territories, their problems. It was efficient, peaceful, utterly hollow. Then he heard it, a sound so faint, so desperate, that it should have been lost in the cacophony of sirens and shouting voices 3 miles away. But vampire senses were unnaturally sharp, and something about this particular sound, this small, broken voice, cut through every other noise like a blade through silk. "Please, someone." Mama stopped breathing. Dorian froze. "Your Majesty!" Seraphine's brow furrowed. "What is it?" He was already moving. Through the tower, down the spiraling stairs, past shocked guards who barely had time to register their king's passage before he was gone. He moved with the inhuman speed of his kind, a blur of shadow and purpose, his black coat billowing behind him like wings. The fire was worse up close. Heat radiated in waves that would have been unbearable to mortals. Flames licked from shattered windows, glass raining down onto the street where firefighters worked frantically. Crowds of evacuees huddled behind barricades, wrapped in blankets, their faces streaked with soot and tears. Dorian scanned them with predatory precision. "Not here." The voice had come from there. On the far side of the building, away from the organized evacuation, a small figure sat huddled against the alley wall. A little girl, no more than 7 years old, wearing pink pajamas now stained with ash. Her dark curls were wild around her face, her eyes enormous and wet with tears. In her lap lay a woman, still, too still. Dorian approached slowly, his enhanced hearing confirming what the child already knew. The woman's heartbeat was absent. Her chest didn't rise. Her lips had turned blue. "Please," the little girl whispered when she saw him, her voice hoarse from smoke. "Please, sir." My mom stopped breathing. I tried to wake her. I tried, but she won't. A sob cut her off. Dorian knelt on the filthy pavement, something inside his chest tightening in a way he hadn't felt in centuries. The woman was young, early 30s, perhaps with the same dark curls as her daughter. Even through the soot and burns, he could see she'd been beautiful. Was beautiful still, in the way death sometimes preserved what life could not. But it was the scent that stopped him completely. Beneath the smoke and char, beneath the mortal terror and pain, there was something else. Something ancient and impossible, woven into her very blood. Magic. Not vampire magic, but something older, purer. Thornwood magic. His hand trembled as he reached for the woman's throat, checking for a pulse he already knew wasn't there. "How long?" he asked the girl gently. "I don't know." She clutched her mother's hand. "She carried me out. The hallway was all fire, and she covered me and got me outside. But then she fell down, and she won't wake up. And I called for help, but nobody came. And, shh." Dorian placed a hand on the child's shoulder. Through the contact, he felt it the same impossible signature, but brighter, stronger. This child wasn't just touched by Thornwood magic, she was saturated in it. A prophecy whispered through his memory, words his own mother had spoken before her death. When fire births light from ancient dark, the thorn-born child shall bear the mark. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Lily," she hiccuped. "Lily Thorn. And that's my mama. Her name is Cassandra Thorn." Of course. The Thornwood line protectors, seers, wielders of old magic that predated even vampire existence. They'd been hunted to extinction 300 years ago during the Purge, when fearful vampires and mortals alike had united to destroy what they couldn't control. Or so everyone had believed. Lily. Dorian made his decision in an instant. "I'm going to help your mother. But I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" The girl nodded frantically. "Good. Hold on to me. Don't let go." He scooped Cassandra's lifeless body into his arms with one motion, then pulled Lily against his side. The building groaned behind them, flames reaching higher, the structure beginning to collapse. "Sir!" A firefighter spotted them, running over. "You can't! The building's about to—" Dorian's eyes flashed crimson in the firelight. "Fall back!" The firefighter stumbled backward, compelled by the ancient authority in that voice. And then Dorian ran. Not away from the fire, but toward it, through it. Because the only thing that could possibly save a Thornwood descendant who died protecting her child was in that building. In apartment 4C, according to the supernatural signature, he could feel pulsing weakly from the ruins. A Thornwood artifact, dormant, waiting. "What are you doing?" Lily screamed as he carried them both into the inferno. "Saving her," Dorian growled. The heat was tremendous even for him. Flames parted around them, drawn back by the sheer force of his will and speed, but his skin still blistered and healed. Blistered and healed, in rapid succession. Lily buried her face in his coat, shielded by his body. 3rd floor, 4th floor. The stairs were collapsing, so he leaped, clearing entire flights in single bounds. Wood splintered beneath his feet. The ceiling rained burning debris. Apartment 4C's door hung off its hinges. Inside, everything was ablaze. But there, on a shelf, somehow untouched by flame, sat a small wooden box carved with symbols that glowed faintly gold. Dorian grabbed it with his free hand. The moment his skin made contact, the box flared brilliant white, and every flame in the apartment extinguished instantly. The sudden silence was deafening. "Impossible," he breathed. The box opened in his palm. Inside, nestled in velvet, was a pendant, a golden thorn wrapped around a crystal heart that pulsed with inner light. Without thinking, without time to think, Dorian placed the pendant against Cassandra's chest. Light exploded outward. Lily screamed. Dorian shielded her with his body as the brilliance became blinding, filling the ruined apartment, spilling out the windows like a second sun. He felt Cassandra's body convulse in his arms, felt something ancient and powerful surge through her veins, felt her heart stutter once, twice, then beat. She gasped a terrible wrenching sound, and her eyes flew open. They glowed pure gold. Act 1. Sanctuary and Secrets. The Obsidian Tower rose from the heart of Ashenholt like a dagger piercing the sky. Its black stone seemed to drink in moonlight rather than reflect it, and its halls had been walked by vampire royalty for 5 centuries. Now, they echoed with the sound of a child's frightened breathing. Dorian carried Cassandra through corridors lit by eternal flames, Lily clutching his coat and refusing to be separated from her mother. Guards stared in open shock. Servants whispered. By the time he reached his private chambers, half the tower knew the king had brought mortals into the inner sanctum. The other half would know within the hour. Lay her here. Dr. Ilara Vex, the tower's chief physician, gestured to the four-poster bed that dominated Dorian's sleeping chamber. She was ancient even by vampire standards, with silver hair and eyes that had witnessed the rise and fall of empires. Dorian settled Cassandra onto silk sheets, stepping back reluctantly. The golden glow around her had faded to a faint shimmer beneath her skin, tracing patterns that looked almost like veins, but far more deliberate. Intentional. The Thornwood sigils were awakening. "Remarkable, Doctor," Vex murmured, examining Cassandra with professional detachment. Her heart stopped. "I can see the cellular damage. She was clinically dead for at least 12 minutes. 15, Dorian corrected. He'd counted every second. Then by all medical understanding, she should have catastrophic brain damage. Instead, Dr. Vex shone a light into Cassandra's eyes, watching the golden irises contract and dilate. Instead, she's healing, regenerating. The neural pathways are reconstructing themselves as we speak. The pendant. Dorian held up the artifact, still glowing faintly. It's Thornwood. Old magic. Dr. Vex's expression shifted to something between awe and fear. Your Majesty. If she's truly Thornwood, she is. Both of them are. Then you've just brought the two most dangerous mortals in existence into your home. I'm aware. Lily, who'd been silent through all of this, suddenly spoke up. My mama isn't dangerous. She's nice. She makes pancakes and reads me stories and works 2 jobs so we can have a good apartment. Her voice broke. Had a good apartment? Dorian knelt beside the child, meeting her eyes. They were brown, warm, human brown, but something flickered in their depths when she was emotional, golden sparks, like embers. Your mother is extraordinary, he said gently. And so are you. But there are people who fear extraordinary things. Do you understand? People want to hurt us. Some might. That's why you'll stay here. Where I can protect you. But you're a vampire. Lily's statement held no accusation, only confusion. Mama always said vampires don't help humans. She said we have to be careful and stay hidden, and never let anyone know about. She stopped abruptly, as if realizing she'd said too much. About your magic? Dorian finished. Lily bit her lip, then nodded slowly. Your mama was right to teach you caution. But not all vampires are the same, just as not all humans are. He paused. I won't hurt you, Lily. I give you my word. Promises are important. Lily said seriously. You can't break them. No, you can't. A groan from the bed interrupted them. Cassandra stirred, her head turning. Her lips moved, forming a single word. Lily. Mama! The child scrambled onto the bed, throwing her arms around her mother. Cassandra's eyes fluttered open, still that impossible, luminous gold. They focused on her daughter first, filling with relief and love. Then they shifted to Dorian, standing at the foot of the bed, and widened with recognition and terror. You, her voice was hoarse, damaged from smoke. You're the Vampire King, Dorian finished. Yes. Cassandra tried to sit up, pulling Lily protectively against her chest. The movement was too fast, inhumanly fluid. She froze, staring down at her own hands, as if they belonged to a stranger. What did you do to me? The question came out as a whisper. I saved your life, Dorian gestured to the pendant, now resting on the bedside table, with your own magic. Cassandra's gaze locked onto the artifact, her face drained of what little color it had regained. No, that was supposed to stay hidden, buried. You don't understand what that is. I understand perfectly. It's a Thornwood resurrection pendant, probably crafted by your great-great-grandmother during the Purge, meant to preserve the bloodline if everything else failed. His voice softened. It chose to save you, Cassandra. Your own magic recognized you were dying to protect your daughter, and it chose life. Tears spilled down her cheeks. They'll come for us now. Everyone will know. The covens, the hunters, She looked at him, truly looked at him for the first time. Why are you helping us? Your kind killed mine. Wiped us out 3 centuries ago. Not my kind, Dorian's jaw tightened. My grandfather's generation. And they were wrong. That doesn't answer my question. He could have lied. Should have lied. Instead, he found himself speaking a truth he barely understood himself. Because when I heard your daughter calling for help, something in me that's been dead for 400 years woke up. And when I saw you died protecting her, I couldn't walk away. He paused. I won't walk away. Cassandra stared at him, searching his face for deception. Whatever she saw there made her shoulders drop slightly, though tension remained in every line of her body. How long do we have before the rest of your people find out what we are? They already know you're here. What you are. Dorian glanced at Dr. Vex, who nodded fractionally. That secret will hold for perhaps a day. Maybe 2. The Thornwood sigils are visible to anyone with magical sight. Then we need to leave, tonight, before leaving would be suicide. His voice hardened. You're weak. Lily is untrained. And whoever set that fire wasn't targeting the building, they were targeting you specifically. Cassandra went very still. What? Dr. Vex stepped forward, pulling out a small vial filled with ash. We sent investigators to the scene. The fire started in 3 separate locations, simultaneously, all on your floor, all with accelerants that wouldn't show up in mortal forensic testing. Someone tried to murder you and make it look like an accident, Dorian said bluntly. They almost succeeded. But why? Cassandra's voice cracked. We've been so careful. Never used magic in public. Never drew attention. We moved cities every 2 years. Changed our names. You had a child. Dorian interrupted gently. A Thornwood child. Her power is... He searched for the right word. Considerable. Lily, who'd been quietly listening, spoke up. I didn't mean to. The lights just... happened. Cassandra closed her eyes, understanding dawning. The elementary school. Last month. You made the classroom lights explode when that boy pushed you. He was being mean. And the teacher saw. Probably reported it. Even if she didn't understand what she saw, someone was listening. Dorian crossed his arms. Word travels fast in magical circles. A child who can manipulate light? That's a Thornwood signature. So we're dead either way. Cassandra pulled Lily closer. Stay here, and your people kill us. Leave, and the hunters find us. Or, Dorian said quietly, you stay here under my protection, and anyone who wants to harm you has to go through me first. Why would you do that? He could have given a dozen political answers. Strategic value, ancient debts between bloodlines, the potential alliance between Thornwood magic and vampire power. Instead, he looked at Lily, this small, brave child who'd sat in an alley cradling her dead mother and refused to give up hope. Because she asked me to, he said simply, and I made a promise. Act 2, The Awakening. 3 days passed in a blur of impossible adjustments. Cassandra woke each morning in silk sheets that cost more than her yearly salary, in a room larger than her entire burned apartment. Servants brought meals she couldn't stomach. Her body had changed in ways she was only beginning to understand. Craving things that weren't quite food. Dr. Vex explained it clinically. The Thornwood magic wasn't just healing her. It was transforming her, enhancing her, making her into what her ancestors had been before the purge, something between mortal and immortal, a bridge species. Your cellular structure is remarkable, the doctor said during one examination, studying blood samples under an enchanted microscope. You're aging roughly 1 year for every 10 that pass. Your strength, speed, healing all enhanced. Not vampire level, but far beyond human. How long will I live? Cassandra asked, though part of her didn't want to know. Barring violence? 5, perhaps 600 years. The number was incomprehensible. Cassandra looked down at her hands, at the golden sigils now permanently visible beneath her skin, tracing delicate patterns up her forearms. And Lily? Lily was born to this. Her power is dormant, yes, but enormous. When it fully awakens, Dr. Vex paused. Let's focus on controlled training, shall we? That training began in the tower's deepest levels, in chambers warded with ancient magic specifically designed to contain supernatural energies. Dorian himself oversaw Lily's first lesson, bringing in a vampire named Marcus Thornweaver, one of the few mages still practiced in light manipulation. Light magic is the opposite of what we vampires wield, Marcus explained to Lily, who sat cross-legged on the floor, looking tiny in the vast chamber. We draw power from shadow, from darkness, from the spaces between stars. You draw from the sun, from fire, from illumination itself. But I can't control it, Lily said quietly. It just happens when I'm scared or angry. Then we teach you to control it when you're calm first. Marcus conjured a small sphere of shadow, letting it hover above his palm. Try to make light. Small. Gentle. Like turning on a flashlight instead of the sun. Lily screwed up her face in concentration. Nothing happened. Don't force it, Dorian said from where he stood watching. Feel it. The warmth inside you. The brightness. Lily tried again. This time, a tiny spark flickered above her palm. Golden, warm, beautiful. She gasped in delight, and the spark exploded into a basketball-sized orb of brilliant light. Every vampire in the room hissed and shielded their eyes. Oops! Lily clenched her fist, and the light vanished. Sorry. Better, Marcus said, blinking away after images. But perhaps we work on the dimmer switch next time. Cassandra watched from the observation alcove above, her heart swelling with pride and terror in equal measure. Her daughter, her sweet, innocent daughter, wielding power that could burn vampires to ash. She's a natural, Dorian said, appearing beside her with his characteristic silence. Cassandra jumped slightly. I wish you wouldn't do that. Apologies. But he didn't sound sorry. He leaned against the stone railing, watching Lily practice creating and dismissing small lights. How are you adjusting? To discovering I'm not human anymore? Or to living in a vampire tower? Or to the fact that someone tried to murder my daughter? Cassandra's voice held an edge. Take your pick. All of it. She sighed, some of the tension leaving her shoulders. Honestly, I'm terrified. Every moment. Waiting for the other shoe to drop. The shoe is already dropping. The council has demanded an audience. Cassandra turned to face him. In the 3 days since her resurrection, she'd barely spent time with Dorian beyond brief updates. He was always busy ruling a kingdom, apparently involved endless meetings, documents, and political maneuvering. But when he did appear, she found herself noticing things she shouldn't. The elegant strength in his movements. The rare, slight smile that touched his lips when Lily said something amusing. The way his eyes, usually cold and gray, warmed to something almost human when he looked at her daughter. When he looked at her, "What will you tell them?" she asked. "The truth. That you and Lily are under my protection. That anyone who threatens you will answer to me personally. That's not going to go over well. No, it's not. Dorian." She used his name for the first time and saw something flicker in his expression. "Why are you really doing this? And don't give me the line about promises. Kings don't risk their throne for one promise to a child." He was quiet for a long moment, watching Lily laugh as she made a constellation of tiny lights dance around Marcus's head. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. 400 years ago, I had a sister. Her name was Ariana. She was light itself, even before she was turned, laughed like bells, saw goodness in everyone. His jaw tightened. During the purge, she argued we should protect the Thornwood families, said they weren't threats, but allies, said magic and vampirism could coexist. Cassandra felt ice forming in her stomach. What happened? The council voted to participate in the extermination. I abstained. I was young, newly crowned, unsure. I thought neutrality was wisdom. His voice turned bitter. Ariana went anyway. Anyway, tried to hide a Thornwood family. She was caught. Tried for treason. Executed at dawn with the very family she died to protect. Oh God. I did nothing. Told myself the council's will was law. That one vampire couldn't change history. That he stopped, visibly forcing control back over his emotions. Every day since, I've regretted that cowardice. So, when I heard Lily calling for help, when I saw you died protecting her, he looked directly at Cassandra. I saw a chance to finally do what I should have done centuries ago. Choose courage over fear. Choose protecting the innocent over political convenience. Cassandra reached out, her hand hovering just short of touching his arm. That's not cowardice. You were young. I was a coward. And your family is paying for sins committed generations before you were born. His eyes met hers, and she saw centuries of guilt and loneliness swirling in their depths. Let me do this, Cassandra. Let me protect you. Both of you. Not because it's strategic or politically wise, but because it's right. Her hand completed its journey, settling on his arm. Even through the fabric of his formal coat, she could feel the supernatural coldness of his skin. But beneath that cold, she sensed something else. Warmth, desperate and denied. Hope. Carefully guarded. Okay, she whispered. We'll stay. Relief flooded his features so completely, so humanly, that for a moment he looked his actual age rather than the ageless sovereign he pretended to be. Below, Lily shrieked with delight as she successfully created a perfect miniature sun that didn't immediately explode or vanish. Marcus applauded, and somewhere deep in the tower, in chambers where the Vampire Council convened, plans were being made that would test every promise Dorian had just given. Act 3. Council of Vipers. The council chamber was designed to intimidate. Carved from a single massive cavern deep beneath the tower, its ceiling soared into darkness that even vampire eyes couldn't fully penetrate. 12 thrones, black marble veined with silver, formed a semicircle facing a central dais, where the accused, or honored, depending on the council's mood, would stand. Tonight, the thrones were all occupied. Dorian stood on the dais, crown gleaming in the torchlight, face impassive, as the council members took turns expressing their concerns. Your Majesty, Lady Seraphine began, her voice silk over steel. While we appreciate your compassionate rescue of the mortal woman and child, their continued residence in the tower presents significant complications. Name them, Dorian said flatly. Security, for one. We know nothing of their backgrounds, their affiliations, their potential connections to anti-vampire groups. They're refugees from a fire that destroyed their home. What affiliations could they possibly? The fire was supernatural in origin. This from Lord Cassius Morven, ancient and cruel, with a face like carved granite. 3 points of simultaneous ignition using magic designed to bypass mortal detection. Someone wanted them dead. Someone powerful. He leaned forward. The question is, why? What are they hiding? Dorian's hands clenched behind his back. They're hiding nothing. They're innocent victims of what? Random magical violence? Seraphine's laugh was cold. Your Majesty, with respect, that level of magical expenditure requires motivation, resources. Whoever targeted that building wanted something specific, or someone specific, added Lady Helena Vask, younger than the others, but no less dangerous. Perhaps the woman and child themselves. The temperature in the chamber dropped. Dorian's eyes flashed crimson. You're suggesting I should have let them die? We're suggesting, Lord Cassius said carefully, that bringing them here without council approval, housing them in your personal chambers, and providing them resources that should be reserved for registered citizens of this kingdom shows questionable judgment. Questionable judgment, Dorian repeated, voice deadly quiet. I'll tell you what shows questionable judgment. Abandoning innocent people to burn, because helping them might be politically inconvenient. That shows cowardice disguised as pragmatism. You dare, Cassius began. I dare much more than that. Dorian stepped forward. Cassandra Thorne and her daughter Lily are under my personal protection. They will remain in this tower as my guests until such time as I deem it safe for them to live independently. Any objections? Silence. Then Seraphine spoke, her voice carefully neutral. Of course we respect your authority, Your Majesty. However, the Council requests the right to verify the nature of your guests, their backgrounds, their magical capabilities, if any. Ah, there it was, the trap carefully laid. If Dorian refused, he looked like he was hiding something. If he agreed, the Council's mages would immediately identify Cassandra and Lily as Thornwood descendants, and all hell would break loose. The woman is recovering from severe trauma, Dorian said, both physical and psychological. When Dr. Vex clears her for interaction, you may send an assessor, one assessor, who will conduct their evaluation in my presence. That's highly irregular. So is this entire situation. Those are my terms. More silence. Then, from the shadows at the back of the chamber, a new voice spoke. Old, rasping, filled with malice barely contained. Perhaps, Your Majesty, the Council's concerns would be eased if you explained your personal interest in these particular mortals. Dorian's spine stiffened. That voice belonged to Lord Ezekiel Crane, the oldest member of the Council, turned during the purge itself, and one of the 3 vampires who'd voted for Ariana's execution 4 centuries ago. My interest, Dorian said coldly, is in upholding the laws of hospitality that have governed civilized vampires for millennia. Or have you forgotten those laws, Ezekiel? I forget nothing. The ancient vampire stepped into the light, his face a skull barely covered by papery skin. I remember, for instance, another young idealist who brought forbidden things into this tower, who argued for alliances that would have destroyed us, who died for her treasonous compassion. The air crackled with tension. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. My sister, Dorian's voice could have frozen fire, was murdered for having the courage this council lacked. Don't speak her name with that filthy mouth. Your sister was a traitor, who, Dorian moved. One moment he stood on the dais, the next he had Lord Crane by the throat, lifted off the ground, eyes blazing with 4 centuries of suppressed rage. Say one more word about Ariana, he whispered, and council seat or not, I will end you. Your Majesty! Seraphine was on her feet. Please, this serves nothing. Slowly, Dorian lowered the ancient vampire, releasing his throat. Crane stumbled back, coughing unnecessarily, eyes burning with hatred. You've changed, boy, Crane rasped. Grown weak, sentimental. Your father would be ashamed. My father, Dorian said quietly, helped orchestrate a genocide. If he's ashamed of me for refusing to repeat his mistakes, I'll wear that shame with pride. He turned, addressing the full council. Cassandra and Lily Thorne stay, under my protection. End of discussion. This session is concluded. He strode from the chamber without waiting for dismissal, leaving shocked silence in his wake. In the tower's upper levels, Cassandra paced the sitting room, while Lily slept in the adjacent bedroom. She'd felt Dorian's anger through the bond that had formed between them, a connection neither fully understood, but both were beginning to accept. When the door opened and he entered, still radiating controlled fury, she crossed to him without thinking. What happened? The council, being themselves. He moved to the window, staring out at the city. They want to examine you, assess your potential threat level, then let them. Maybe if they see I'm nobody special. You are. He turned to face her, and the intensity in his gaze stole her breath. You're Thornwood, Cassandra. The moment they see those sigils, the moment they understand what Lily can become. He shook his head. Some will want to use you. Others will want you destroyed. None of them will simply let you live in peace. So what do? We prepare. Marcus has agreed to accelerate Lily's training. Dr. Vex is researching ways to temporarily suppress the sigil's visibility. And he paused, I'm going to tell you everything. About the purge, about what your people were, about what Lily could become. They sat, and Dorian spoke. He told her about the Thornwood line, how they'd been not just magic users, but balancers. Beings who could walk between the mortal and immortal worlds, healing rifts, preventing the supernatural from overwhelming the natural. How vampires had grown jealous of that power, fearful of it. How the purge had been orchestrated not out of necessity, but out of paranoia and greed, with vampires and mortal witch hunters briefly united in their desire to eliminate the Thornwood threat. How families had been dragged from their homes and burned. How children had been murdered alongside their parents. How the few who escaped went into deep hiding, suppressing their magic for generations. Your mother must have known, Dorian said quietly, must have taught you to hide. She did, but she never told me why. Just that we were different, special, dangerous. Cassandra's voice broke. She died when I was 17. Cancer, the doctors said. But now, I wonder, if she was hunted? Killed. Dorian's hands clenched. It's possible. The covens that orchestrated the purge never fully disbanded. They became hunters, tracking any rumor of surviving Thornwood bloodlines. And now they've found us. Yes. Cassandra looked toward the bedroom where Lily slept, her small body occasionally glowing faintly in unconscious magical release. What do? Juan? We fight, we train, and we pray that when the real attack comes, we're ready. He reached out, taking her hand. The contact sent warmth flooding through the supernatural cold that had claimed her body since the resurrection. I won't let them take you, Dorian said, his voice fierce. Either of you. I failed Ariana. I won't fail you. Cassandra squeezed his hand. You didn't fail your sister. You were young, outnumbered. I was a coward. You were human, she smiled sadly, metaphorically speaking. Something in his expression cracked. He pulled her closer, and she went willingly, tucking herself against his chest. His arms came around her, protective and possessive in equal measure. They stood that way for a long time, two damaged souls taking comfort in each other's presence. While outside the tower, enemies began to move. Act 4. Betrayal in Blood. The attack came 3 nights later, during the Blood Moon Festival. It was tradition. An ancient celebration where vampires and allied supernatural beings gathered to honor the turning of seasons, to feast and politic in equal measure. The tower opened its doors to guests from across the kingdom. Security relaxed to allow for the flow of nobles and merchants. Perfect cover for an assassination. Cassandra had argued against attending, but Dorian insisted. Hiding you sends the message that I'm ashamed of your presence, that I doubt my decision, The council is already circling. We need to show strength. So she donned a gown of midnight blue silk, provided by Lady Seraphine with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, and let servants arrange her hair in elaborate braids that almost concealed the golden sigils at her temples. Almost. Lily stayed behind with Dr. Vex and Marcus, protected by wards and guards in the deepest, safest part of the tower. I don't like this, Cassandra said as Dorian led her into the grand ballroom where hundreds of vampires mingled beneath glittering chandeliers. Something feels wrong. Everything about this feels wrong, Dorian murmured back. But we need allies, and allies require visibility. The evening proceeded with excruciating politeness. Nobles approached, offering congratulations on Cassandra's miraculous recovery, while their eyes assessed her like a fascinating specimen. She smiled and nodded and said very little, acutely aware that one wrong word could shatter the fragile acceptance Dorian had negotiated. Then Lord Crane appeared, moving through the crowd with the slow deliberation of a predator selecting prey. Your Majesty, Lady Cassandra. His voice dripped false courtesy. How wonderful to see you've recovered so completely from your ordeal. Lord Crane. Cassandra's voice was steady, despite the ice forming in her stomach. Tell me, my dear, do you find our tower accommodations adequate? I imagine they're quite different from mortal housing. They're more than adequate. The king has been exceedingly generous. Generous, yes. Crane's eyes gleamed. Our king has always had a soft heart for strays. Dorian's hand tightened on Cassandra's waist. Careful, Ezekiel. Oh, I'm always careful, Your Majesty. Unlike some, I remember the costs of careless compassion. He smiled, showing too many teeth. I knew your sister, you know, such a bright, foolish girl. She too believed mortals and vampires could be more than what we are. Walk away, Dorian said quietly, or I will remove you myself. Will you? Here? Before all these witnesses? Crane gestured to the watching crowd. That would be quite the spectacle. The king, losing control over an old man's memories, Cassandra felt Dorian trembling with suppressed rage. She squeezed his hand, drawing his attention. He's baiting you. Don't give him what he wants. For a moment, she thought Dorian might strike anyway. Then, he exhaled slowly, visibly pulling control back over himself. You're right. He's not worth it. He turned, leading Cassandra away. Crane's laugh followed them. Run along, children. Enjoy your brief time together. These things never last. They made it to the balcony before Dorian's control shattered. He slammed his fist against the stone railing, cracking it, breathing heavily, though he didn't need to breathe. 400 years, he said through clenched teeth. 400 years, and I still want to tear his throat out. He's trying to provoke you, make you look unstable in front of the other nobles. I know. But hearing him speak about Ariana like she was some naive fool when she was braver than any of them. He stopped, looking at her. Really, looking at her. You remind me of her, the way you protect Lily without hesitation. The quiet strength, the refusal to be cowed. Cassandra moved closer, reaching up to touch his face. I'm sorry you lost her. I'm sorry you lost your mother, your home, your normal life. I never had a normal life, just a carefully hidden abnormal one. She smiled sadly. At least here I don't have to pretend. He caught her hand, pressing it more firmly against his cheek. The gesture was vulnerable, almost desperate. Cassandra, I need to tell you, screams erupted from the ballroom. They spun. Through the glass doors, chaos had descended. The chandeliers exploded in showers of crystal. Vampires scattered as figures in black armor poured through windows, wielding weapons that glowed with silver fire. Hunters. Dorian moved instantly, drawing the ceremonial blade at his hip. Get to the safe room. Now. What about you? I'll handle this. Go. But Cassandra was already running not toward safety, but toward the tower's heart, toward Lily. She moved with her enhanced speed, taking stairs 3 at a time, driven by maternal instinct and growing dread. The wards should have held. The guards should have sounded alarms, unless someone had disabled them from the inside. She burst into Dr. Vex's laboratory to find the doctor unconscious on the floor, Marcus bleeding from a silver wound, and Lily was gone. No, the word came out as a whimper. No, 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 they took her. Marcus coughed blood. Came through the walls. Shadow magic. Crane's signature. His eyes focused on her with effort. It's a trap, Lady Cassandra. For you and the king both. Cassandra didn't hesitate. She reached deep inside herself, past fear, past logic, to the golden warmth that had been growing since her resurrection. The thornwood magic responded instantly, flooding her veins with power. Her sigils blazed brilliant gold, her eyes became twin suns, and she followed the thread of light that connected her to her daughter, a bond even deeper than the one she shared with Dorian. The Hunter Battalion thought they'd planned everything perfectly. Disable the wards during the festival when security was divided. Use the ballroom attack as a distraction. Have Lord Crane's agents extract the Thornwood child while the king fought enemies in the Grand Hall. They hadn't planned on Cassandra. She tore through the tower like avenging light itself, following Lily's trail to the eastern catacombs. Hunters tried to stop her silver blades, blessed weapons, magical bindings designed to neutralize Thornwood power. She burned through them all. A sword came at her throat. She caught it with her bare hand, the silver searing her palm, and crushed the blade to powder. She moved with speed that rivaled vampires, struck with strength that exceeded mortals, healed from wounds that should have killed her. The Thornwood magic, dormant for generations, had fully awakened. She found them in a ritual chamber deep underground. Lily, bound to an altar, crying but unharmed. Lord Crane standing over her with a ceremonial dagger, surrounded by 12 hunters in crimson robes. "Stop!" Cassandra's voice echoed off stone walls. Crane looked up, smiled. "Ah, Mother arrives. How touching. Let her go." "I don't think so. You see, we need the child. Her power, properly extracted and refined, will fuel our rituals for decades, will allow us to finally purge the vampire influence from this kingdom and return to proper order." "You're insane." "I'm practical. Vampires and Thornwood magic cannot coexist. History proves this. So we eliminate one to preserve the other." He raised the dagger. "Your daughter's sacrifice will herald a new age." "Mama!" Lily screamed, and golden light exploded from her small body. The bindings holding her shattered. Hunters flew backward. Crane stumbled, shielding his eyes, and Cassandra moved. She crossed the chamber in a heartbeat, interposing herself between Crane and Lily. The dagger meant for her daughter plunged into her chest instead, silver burning through her heart. Cassandra gasped. Blood bloomed across her blue gown. Crane's eyes widened in shock. "You should be dead." "I've died once already," Cassandra whispered. "Didn't take." She grabbed Crane's wrist and twisted, hearing bones snap. He screamed. She ripped the dagger from her own chest and drove it into his throat. Lord Ezekiel Crane, architect of the Purge, fell dying beside the altar he'd meant for Lily. The remaining hunters attacked as one. But Lily was free now, her power responding to her mother's injury with devastating force. Light erupted from the child. Pure, brilliant, terrible. Hunters burst into flames. The stone walls cracked. Ancient wards carved into the foundation activated, trying to contain the power and failing. The entire eastern wing began to collapse. Cassandra, bleeding from the chest wound that wouldn't heal because of the silver still in her system, grabbed Lily and ran. They made it halfway up the stairs before Dorian found them, his formal coat shredded, his face spattered with blood from the battle above. He took in the scene instantly: Cassandra's wound, Lily's tear-streaked face, the chamber collapsing behind them. "Give her to me," he commanded, reaching for Lily. "I've got her." "You're dying. Again. Give her to me." Cassandra transferred Lily into Dorian's arms, then stumbled. Her vision was graying, the edges going dark. The silver was spreading through her blood, poisoning her even as the Thornwood magic tried desperately to heal. Dorian caught her with his free arm, inhuman strength, allowing him to carry them both. He ran, faster than thought, as the eastern wing imploded behind them in a shower of stone and fire. They burst into the main hall where the battle had ended. Dead hunters lay scattered among shocked nobles. Lady Seraphine stood covered in blood that wasn't hers. The council members who'd survived looked shell-shocked. "Dr. Vex!" Dorian roared. "Now!" The ancient physician appeared, assessed Cassandra's wound, and went pale. "Your Majesty, the silver is in her heart. I can't." "You can? You will!" He laid Cassandra on the council table, Lily still clutching him, refusing to be separated. "Save her, Your Majesty. Even with Thornwood healing, this is—" Dorian's eyes blazed crimson. Power radiated from him in waves, pressing down on everyone present. "I am giving you a direct order. Save her, Doctor." Vex nodded shakily and began working, pulling instruments from her medical kit with trembling hands. Cassandra's eyes fluttered open, finding Dorian's face above her. "Lily. Safe. She's safe. Right here." He adjusted his hold so Cassandra could see their daughter. "Love you, baby," Cassandra whispered. "Don't." Dorian's voice cracked. "Don't say goodbye. You don't get to leave. Not now. Not after everything." "Dorian." His name on her lips broke something inside him. "Please, please stay. I only just found you. Both of you. I can't." His voice failed completely. Lily reached out, placing her small glowing hand on her mother's wound. "Like when you were hurt before, Mama? The light fixed you." "Lily." "No," Dr. Vex began, but it was too late. Golden light poured from Lily's hand into her mother's chest. The silver began to dissolve, burned away by pure Thornwood magic, channeled through a child's desperate love. Cassandra convulsed. The wound closed. Her eyes blazed gold, then slowly faded back to their normal brown. She drew a deep, shuddering breath. Lived. The council chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Every vampire present had just witnessed something that shouldn't exist. A Thornwood child healing mortal wounds through pure will and love. And every vampire present now knew exactly what Cassandra and Lily were. Act 5. Choosing Light. The emergency council session convened at midnight. This time, Dorian didn't stand alone on the dais. Cassandra stood beside him, Lily between them, the child's small hands held by both her mother and the vampire king who'd claimed them as his. The remaining council members, 11, after Crane's death, looked shaken. Some frightened, some calculating. Lady Seraphine spoke first. "Your Majesty, we've all witnessed the events of tonight. The child's power, the woman's nature. We can no longer deny what they are." "Thornwood," Dorian said. "Yes. The last of a bloodline we attempted to exterminate 3 centuries ago." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. "Which raises several questions," Lord Cassius said carefully, "not least of which is whether their presence here constitutes a threat to the kingdom." "The only threat tonight," Dorian replied coldly, "came from one of our own council members who allied with hunters to kidnap and murder a child. A child I had explicitly placed under my protection." "Crane was a traitor," Lady Helena agreed. "But his concerns, however twisted his methods, weren't entirely unfounded. The Thornwood line was destroyed for a reason. Was it? Dorian challenged. Or was it destroyed? Because we feared power we couldn't control? Because we couldn't tolerate the existence of beings who could challenge our supremacy? Silence. I've spent 4 centuries accepting the official history, Dorian continued. The Thornwood were dangerous. The purge was necessary. We did what we had to for survival. His voice hardened. It was all lies, justifications for genocide, spoken by those too cowardly to admit they'd murdered innocents out of jealousy and fear. Your Majesty, Seraphine began. No. You'll listen. He pulled Lily closer. This child saved her mother's life tonight through nothing but love and instinct. Not violence, not conquest. Love. That's what we destroyed 300 years ago. That's what we've denied this world ever since. He looked around the chamber, meeting each council member's eyes in turn. I'm not asking for your permission anymore. I'm telling you how this will be. Cassandra and Lily Thorne will remain under my protection. They will be granted full citizenship. Lily will be trained in her abilities by whoever I deem fit. And the first vampire who threatens them in any way will answer to me personally. You would risk civil war, Lord Cassius began. I would risk everything. Dorian's voice rang with absolute conviction. Because I've learned something in the past week that 4 centuries of rule never taught me. Power without compassion is just tyranny. Order without justice is just oppression. And a kingdom built on the bones of innocence isn't worth protecting. He paused, then spoke the words that would change everything. If this council cannot accept that, if you truly believe the only way to preserve our kingdom is through fear and violence and the murder of children, then you don't need me as your king. Shocked gasps. Seraphine rose from her throne. Your Majesty, you can't possibly— I'm not abdicating. I'm giving you a choice. Adapt to a world where Thornwood and vampire coexist, where we build something better than what our ancestors left us. Or remove me and crown someone who'll repeat their mistakes. His eyes flashed crimson. But if you choose the latter, you'd better be prepared to go through Cassandra and Lily first. And I promise you, that won't end well. The silence that followed was absolute. Finally, Lady Seraphine spoke, her voice thoughtful. Your Majesty, perhaps you're right. Perhaps it is time for change. The hunters allied with Crane proved that the old fears, the old hatreds, they're still out there, still poisoning minds. She looked at Cassandra. Perhaps an alliance with Thornwood magic could strengthen us rather than weaken us. You can't be serious, Lord Cassius sputtered. I am. Crane's betrayal nearly destroyed us tonight. It revealed weaknesses in our defenses, our unity, our very foundation. Seraphine's gaze swept the council. The king is offering us a chance to evolve, to become something more than what we were. I, for one, vote to accept his terms. One by one, other council members nodded, some reluctantly, some with genuine interest. A few remained silent, their hatred clear but controlled. When the vote was called, it passed, 8-3. Cassandra and Lily Thorne would remain, protected, honored, free. 3 months later, spring came to Ashenholt. Cassandra stood in the tower's gardens, watching Lily practice with Marcus. The child had grown more confident in her abilities, learning to create shields of light, to heal minor wounds, to sense supernatural presences before they became threats. She was still 7 years old, still loved dolls and stories and sweets, but she was also becoming something extraordinary, a bridge between worlds, just as her ancestors had been. She's remarkable, Dorian said, appearing beside Cassandra with his characteristic silence. Cassandra smiled. You still do that. Do what? Sneak up on people. I'm not sneaking. You simply don't pay attention. But his lips curved into a rare smile. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching Lily laugh as she made flowers bloom out of season through carefully applied light magic. The new council members are being sworn in tomorrow, Dorian said eventually. 3 of the old guard resigned rather than accept the Thornwood alliance. And the others? Learning to adapt. Slowly. He paused. We've had inquiries from other supernatural communities, werewolf packs, witch covens, even some mortal magical societies, all interested in what we're building here. Which is what, exactly? Something new. A kingdom where power doesn't demand isolation, where different species can coexist without one dominating the other. He looked at her. It's ambitious, probably impossible, almost certainly doomed to fail, but worth trying? But worth trying. Cassandra turned to face him fully. In the months since the attack, they'd grown closer, carefully, cautiously, both aware that what was building between them was significant. The blood bond hummed between them constantly now, a connection deeper than friendship, but not yet defined as anything more. Dorian, she said softly, you know this is only the beginning, right? There will be more attempts, more enemies, some within your own kingdom. I know, and you're still committed to this? To protecting us? He reached out, cupping her face with one cold hand. Cassandra, in 400 years of existence, I've never been certain of anything the way I'm certain of this. You and Lily have given me something I thought I'd lost forever. What? Purpose. Hope. A reason to believe that immortality doesn't have to mean endless repetition of old mistakes. His thumb brushed her cheek. I would die before letting anyone harm you again. That's not exactly comforting. Then how's this? He leaned closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. I'm falling in love with you, both of you, and it terrifies me more than any enemy ever could. Cassandra's breath caught. The bond between them flared brilliant gold, responding to the truth in his words. Good, she whispered back, because I'm falling in love with you too. And it's completely insane. Utterly. We'll probably get each other killed. Almost certainly. My daughter will make your life complicated forever. I'm counting on it. He kissed her then, gentle and deep, cold lips warming against hers. The blood bond sang between them. And somewhere in the gardens, Lily giggled as the flowers around her burst into bloom. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling. So what now? Cassandra asked. Now, Dorian said, we build something better. Together. And in the heart of Ashenholt, in a tower that had witnessed centuries of darkness, light finally found a home. Epilogue. 1 year later. The Ashenholt Treaty was signed on the first anniversary of the fire. Representatives from vampire, werewolf, witch, and mortal magical communities gathered in the newly renovated Grand Hall. The same hall that had been attacked a year before, now rebuilt as a symbol of cooperation rather than division. Lily, now 8 years old, stood beside her mother as Dorian signed the document that would change the supernatural world forever. She wore a dress of white and gold, her hair adorned with flowers she'd grown herself through light magic. She looked every inch the light-bearer the prophecies had foretold. But she was also just a child, fidgeting slightly, whispering to her mother about whether there would be cake later. There will absolutely be cake, Cassandra whispered back. Chocolate? Chocolate. Satisfied, Lily returned her attention to the ceremony. Dorian finished signing, then turned to face the assembled crowd. This treaty represents not just an agreement between species, but a commitment to a different future. One where power is shared, where knowledge is exchanged, where the mistakes of our past don't dictate our present. He looked at Cassandra and Lily, love and pride clear in his expression. A year ago, I was given a choice. Abandon 2 people who needed help, or risk everything to protect them. I chose protection, and it changed my kingdom, changed me. His voice strengthened. Today, we all make that same choice. Do we cling to old fears and old hatreds, or do we choose something better? The hall erupted in applause, some of it genuine, some of it politic, all of it representing progress. That night, after the celebration ended and the diplomats departed, Dorian, Cassandra, and Lily sat together in the tower's gardens under stars that seemed impossibly bright. "Mama," Lily asked sleepily, leaning against her mother, "do you think we'll stay here forever?" Cassandra looked at Dorian, who smiled and wrapped his arm around them both. "I think," she said, "we'll stay here as long as we want to. And when we want to go somewhere else, we'll go together." "All three of us?" "All three of us," Dorian confirmed. Lily smiled, content, and within minutes had fallen asleep between them, a child of light, resting peacefully between darkness and dawn. Dorian looked at Cassandra over Lily's head. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For asking for help that night, for trusting me, for staying." "Thank you," she replied, "for running through fire." He leaned across, kissing her gently while Lily slept on. And in the heart of Ashenholt, a new story began, not of light conquering darkness or darkness consuming light, but of both existing together, supporting each other, choosing each other every day, choosing love over fear, choosing hope over history, choosing, always, the harder right over the easier wrong. The end.